Okay, it is 7:09 already. It is February 23rd, 2023. There we go, I know what year it is. Legislative committee hearing in attendance: Councilperson Wolf, Councilperson Martin, Councilperson McNamara, Councilperson Camera, Eric Fisher, Council President Bruger. There we go. All right, for legislation tonight, there is no pending legislation before the council, so we do not have any legislation to go over. However, Village Planner Mr. Fisher is here to step us through our first look at the revised planning and zoning code.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just give it to you, and it's your meeting now.
Thank you, Council President Bruger. I appreciate it. Other members of Council present. So it's been a number of months since the Planning and Zoning Commission started the project on the basically Chapter 12 and Chapter 14 of the Minerva Park Zoning Code from a complete rewrite standpoint. It's been long overdue. We've discussed and had a number of issues over the past year plus. Code is notably out of date in places and needs to be revisited to make it a little bit more user-friendly and bring it up to speed with the times. On that note, just in summary, the way I just want to handle tonight's meeting, which shouldn't be too long and lengthy. No need to get into the weeds tonight on different issues, but it's more just to kind of outline process going forward. Obviously, the Legislative Committee is the correct place to begin this process, and I appreciate the majority of members of council attending. It's normally a 3-member commission because there's a lot of material to go over as we go forward. You're fortunate in this regard that you have 2 council members who both serve on Planning and Zoning Commission who partook in this, so they can help bring everyone up to speed, especially when we get into some details. I expect the process minimally to take the next couple of months. Most of the heavy lifting has already been done by Planning and Zoning Commission. There's still a number of items from a format standpoint that will be handled by myself and the attorneys to get it cleaned up before final ordinance is presented. There's a number of things that were done from a technical standpoint, just to obviously certain things in engineering, certain things from a legal case study standpoint. Those items, the responsibility of the legal counsel as well as the engineer. The engineer's still going to do his review, and then we're going to add that in before the end. You'll note this is Chapter 12 that I sent you all today, which is the majority of it. Chapter 14 kind of is a weird chapter here with Minerva Park. It does contain our maintenance code, which was left untouched by the commission since it was adopted just a few years ago. The other parts of it were some redundant and older versions of the building code when Minerva Park used to maintain a separate building code, but all of that was consolidated back in 2008 by the state. And so you pretty much don't. And since we use Franklin County and we use Blenheim Township for commercial side of things, we don't need to worry about having our own chief building officials or anything like that. And so we use their building departments to handle your building code. And really, all you're going to see in those areas is an adoption of an update of the language that concerns the Ohio Revised Code in regards to the building code itself. So, and Jesse will handle that, and we'll get the proper language in there. Chapter 14 will be in front of, to be finalized, will be in front of Planning and Zoning at their next meeting on the 15th of March, and then that'll be kicked up to you as well. But you'll find most of that has either been moved or deleted by the time it gets up to you from a clean standpoint. There's a few items within the code, and you'll note when you have a chance to go through it, you'll see where Jesse added some comments and I added some comments, and there's some places where Planning and Zoning would like the council obviously to weigh in on. You're of course welcome to get deep in the weeds as you want on this, and myself or legal counsel will be happy to answer questions, or the other 2 members of council that served on Planning and Zoning in regards to what the thought process was and any particular questions that may come up. But there are some things that will need some detail moving forward, and one, I'll just kind of highlight those for tonight's purposes. One of them will be swimming pool code has been kind of added and changed in there, and just want you to have a little bit of a close look at that and see if you're comfortable with what's in there and any questions and if there's anything else to add. The zoning for the village, there was a lot of redundant and unused zoning classifications. such as Rule. We don't have Rule, we got rid of those. And some other ones have been consolidated and kept, and there was a new concept introduced at planning and zoning, which we'll get into, in which what we fondly refer to as the older section, the classic section, is going to be rezoned under a planned district called Minerva Park Legacy Planned District. I expect you to have questions on that, and we can go through the details of, from the discussion of planning and zoning of, what led the commission to, get to that point of recommendation. It's a complicated situation in the old section, but we'll talk in detail about it, I'm sure. And, as always, if there are better ideas and unique ways of handling it, I think we've found one, but if there are other things to add to it, that's what we're here for. And then, let's see, I left a note on trees, as we'll get to the tree discussion for everyone, and street trees in general, and how
Do
to...
you have a reference for that?
Oh, trees are at the...
Let's have it up.
Sure. I'll pull...
I know it's like a 20-page document, so it's still gonna be a lot of...
172, something.
100, yeah. That's what I meant.
If you can get it down to 20, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Now, after we reduce it, it's gonna be, I assume, in the 140s or something. We should be able to get rid of about 30 pages.
And we not all, I'm the only one who managed to read all 177 pages this afternoon.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Well, then,
Yep.
I had perused it previously.
Yes, yeah, these two have had their time with it as well. Currently, under the current version, home occupation discussion was also something that was delved into deeply by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you want to have a look at that. That starts on page 173. Pool code follows that at 174-ish. Let's see here. Just kind of skim through this and find the other page number here.
There we go. 172, 3.
Oops, signs. Street trees, I think it appears a couple times, but the main section is on page 147 under 1278.08. We wanted to make a little bit of a small change to variances, in which we wanted to codify what we already do as a courtesy, in which we notify directly adjacent neighbors. Those are the people generally with standing who can come in and speak to, variances. Small bit of language there. It shouldn't be. I don't expect it to be controversial, but if you want to do more or less, time to suggest.
All right, you said we're looking at page 143 here?
147-ish.
47-ish.
Yeah, that's where the trees are. Variances are right in front of that.
Appeals and variances, street tree planning requirements. To discuss with council. Large tree.
Yeah, so just take time, think about those, let them, with any of this, it takes a little time, read through it, percolate, get some questions, and then we'll start to address those. We can spend a little bit of time, I think, at work session next week. Jesse will be there, so he can speak to any particular legal questions, how we got to those points, what his thinking was, case law, all that good stuff. The zoning districts are on, hang on, I'll find those.
Eric, the trees that were planted on the streets in the MI section.
Yes.
Are they large, medium, small,
No.
variety?
So it's a good question. So back when we were determining street tree requirements, planning and zoning, MI wanted to know what the requirements for the village were. And so at the time, that was 2016 to 2017 timeframe. The Planning and Zoning Commission made recommendations, all native species. We have a map. I'll be happy to share that with you. We've got it on file. And with the initial planting, so there were 5 to 7 species off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It was native species.
You were all natives.
And ones that were ones that supposedly the roots were less likely to heave the
Right.
sidewalk.
Okay.
We spent
Those
some
are the two considerations.
Right, we spent some time, I think Upper Arlington has done the best job with, if you care to look, but they've done the best job with their street tree program, and obviously someone already spent the tax dollars on the arborists and everybody there, and just on staff. And they've got a very distinctive list and do's and don'ts with, how wide what we call the tree lawn is. So P and Z use that as one of their reference points, you know, to go ahead and make recommendation for the trees that they picked at that time. So,
Am I missing where it says what happens when a street tree dies? Is that somewhere else, or?
no, it doesn't say anything as to when a street tree dies, so.
Okay.
That's what needs to come to council, and we need to make a decision.
Well,
Gotcha.
and you can, and you can say, hey, we want that just handled administratively, we're gonna portion a certain budget every year for trees, $5,000, whatever that number is, and, you know, administration's just gonna prioritize it like you would any particular repair work, right, or maintenance work. And then, you know, we have a certain amount this year that we have to, you know,
Gotcha.
do to
So that's why
replace.
I'm not seeing it in there, that makes perfect sense.
No, yeah, it's not stipulated anywhere as to how the maintenance item's handled. Yes, sir.
Is there going to be anything, again, is this going to be codified, the native tree section of the native planting list?
So specifically, the native tree species as regards to the new section was proposed and accepted, and it's part of the plan, it's part of the approved plan for this development,
Okay.
right, overall. And so we use that as the reference point, since that's what was recommended, approved, and purchased.
I
and
guess I'm
planted.
speaking about the one that was.
Right, so you'll have to make a decision as a council as to how you want to handle it. We can clearly get there, you know, at the end, there's a bunch of appendixes. One of the appendixes, and I'll also send it around, because I added it in there, was to codify it, is to add the appendix for the planned development, or the planned residential district that is the MI section, because that's not officially codified. That was adopted through a number of ordinances by council, not put into the code officially, right? So it needs to officially be, the text needs to be officially in the code.
So that native planting list that myself and some others made in
You
the
can-
last 2 years could be codified in the
Right.
appendix as well.
Right. And you should do that here, because quite frankly, the appendix also contains a list of trees. Those trees date back some decades, right? And so now is a good time to update that
Yeah.
list. And,
Because I got that one that we made in 2021.
Right.
It would just be smarter to have the code reference the village.
Right.
The village tree list.
correct.
And then we just maintain a tree list that is available.
Yeah, I can work on that this weekend, combining the lists, or, you know, getting it together.
Right? All that adds into the final document, so that's a good
Yeah, let
thing.
me give myself a reminder on that.
Section, well, I'm getting
Oh,
it
sorry.
before I forget, 1258 is this is the whole zoning code section, but Minerva, for the uses, but Minerva Park Legacy Plan District is located here. That's on page 77. You'll find that if you go forward or backwards on that, in that general vicinity, you'll find the other zoning districts there too.
Do you have the digital copy to send out of sort of, you had the big picture where you had
Right.
circled where what was legacy and classic.
Oh, yes, you mean the zoning map itself.
Yeah,
Jesse sent that around, but I'll resend it.
it would be good to resend it. So
Right,
it can be
okay. Yeah, I didn't have that this morning, but I'll fire that away along with the development text.
Yeah.
So we'll get that to everybody before next week, no problem. And then, yeah, those are the main items to, you know, you'll probably wanna have a gander at.
Is it all the stuff in blue?
So it's everything, you probably got multiple colors because there were
Yeah.
multiple editors.
Right.
So it's myself and Jesse doing
Okay.
primarily the edits, so you're gonna have reds and blues from different times, and obviously when they don't get accepted is when the color changes, so there was a number of changes, and then there were changes upon that based on our last, you know, our final meeting, those have been added in there, and so you'll see those different colors and strikeouts.
It wasn't,
Blue is
I just
just
wasn't
new.
sure if it meant
No,
something
blue
specific.
No,
just
no.
means it's new stuff being added. Similarly, if it's red and underlined, it's new text being added. Crossouts is stuff that's being removed.
Right.
Right. So yeah, all that's in there. I don't think, as I just kind of skimmed through this, I don't think there's anything else. I just ask you to look through it and see if you see anything that,
Something
Sticks
that
out.
caught my eye since you were talking about the
Sure.
tree, I'm at the bottom of page 148.
yes.
We are, general requirements, letter G, talking about the trees and where they plant them, and, you know, it has to be an inch and a half or what have you when you plant it. G says the trees should be of one and the same genus and species planted continuously down each street as determined by planning and zoning.
And we
Do we
didn't-
have continuous trees planted down
No,
streets?
absolutely not. We, in the plan district, so the plan district did not, you know, when you have a plan district is different than a straight district. So these are recommendations from a development standpoint, and these are like 19, I don't know, whatever that date is, 1989, I think. And so this is obviously older code, due to be updated, but when you're in a plan district, you can set your standards separately. So what they did is when they set up the MI plan district, they made a different standard, and when we accepted the tree, we purposely got away from that, because one of the problems, as we know from the ash borer, is a great example, the elms, all those kind of things. If you have a single tree, and although developers like to have single trees for
Buy it in bulk.
aesthetic, and it's nice aesthetic look for the
Everything
brand.
looks the same.
Unfortunately,
That's
you
not
get-
aesthetically pleasing, by the
Right.
way, but go on.
Well, some view it differently, but nonetheless, if you don't vary your trees, as they found, they can all be wiped out street by a single.
Yeah, single
Problem.
bad thing. What I'm saying that's in there is that they
Right.
have to be,
Right.
But yeah, so we need to do something about that.
yeah,
Right.
like that should be struck.
So
I think the
Yeah.
whole tree thing is what's coming to council to discuss.
Right,
Okay.
right, it's that we
So
didn't
we will
make
do
any
that,
changes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was the one thing that for some reason I landed on.
Right.
I'm sure there's others.
that's old code, and quite frankly, the way that the village has changed and is, with the proposed zoning change, most of the village will fall, the residential areas fall within the planned district now.
Right.
And so the planned district is simply determined on a matter of text and, with council's approval, for that matter. So, and we really don't, this really strikes to more, like if we had, let's imagine that we had a Jordan Road undeveloped piece of farmland and they were gonna develop it, and they just wanna do a straight district in R3. This is where this text would apply from a development standpoint. But we wouldn't, in modern times, we don't recommend you just do things on a straight district anymore. We do a planned district and you change it as needed. Set down new text, so, yeah, you can strike most of that and just really just get it down to how you wanna handle your existing street trees from a village standpoint, right? Or if you have a house that, wants to cut all the trees down, you can say, well, you gotta have at least 2 trees, so you can replant them, and then we can talk about different tree restrictions, right? There's just different ways to handle that, right?
Yeah, that bunch of same genus and species, that's,
Right.
a diverse forest is a healthy forest.
Right.
But that's, right again, but that's not, so that section is referring to straight district. And in this, what you probably seen is that we will have 2 planned districts and only 1 section of straight R3.
Right.
And then a couple of small commercial
Yeah,
things,
Right.
right? So there's gonna be the planned district that already existed as MI, right? And then Jordan Road and,
well, just Jordan Road.
just
big
Jordan
lots.
Road will be R3, because it's the only part of the village that conforms to the definitions of R3. And then everything else will be this new planned district that we're calling Minerva Park Legacy
Yeah, the legacy.
District. Right, and the Legacy District will have its own language regarding
Okay.
trees.
Right, yeah. So yeah, you can do any number of things with it. It just gives you more flexibility, especially now that you really have you got established,
Yeah.
districts here, so, houses.
So the plan then is that we'll discuss this in our work sessions
Right.
until we kind of come up with something.
Right.
Is the plan to finalize everything, or can we adopt stuff as pieces?
I would
or-
recommend, and I think Jesse will speak to this as well, and he'll be at next week, but I would recommend, since we come this far, I think we adopt everything. He's got a specific comment about the heliport, where we wrote in there some drone. There is language for heliports, and this is old, again, this is code that was adopted in '89, this is what the common thing was there. at that time.
Everyone was gonna get rich and have a
Right.
helicopter.
Well, and they did, they had problems with people in certain areas landing helicopters.
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so people just copied the code into different municipalities, right, so that made its way into our code at that time.
Okay.
Now, what is of concern are, now are drones. Now, that's a complicated section, with ever-changing laws, and Jesse even added a comment there, so just read his comment. That one, he recommends you adopt the rest of the code. We come back on that one specifically, because it's a bit of a bugaboo still, because it's relatively new stuff.
So what was the answer to my question? We're adopting it all at once?
We're adopting it all at once, yes.
Preference would be to
Yes,
adopt all
right.
of it, But we could break it out however we need to.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
I was like, it kind of wanted.
Right, it did, because there was a longer explanation with an example, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all I have on the specific questions with the highlights, and kind of outline the process. We've got a couple work sessions, we can always schedule a special work session for this if everyone feels they want to do that, but you've got another, I think, like I said, next couple months, couple work sessions, couple legislative committees. That should be enough time, I think, to knock it all out, and if folks are, if this is what we're seeing at these commission meetings, where you get the majority of council members, I think you're in good shape for, to get it done.
Does,
we'll just probably start moving legislative back to 6 instead of 6:15,
Yeah,
to make sure we have a half hour, 45 minutes to get through things.
Right.
that makes sense.
I know that might, how much of a problem is that gonna be for you, councilperson McNamara?
6 o'clock,
Let's say 6:15, they can handle legislation in the front.
well,
Yeah, cause we will have whatever is on the docket for that week to go over too. So that'll be the 6 o'clock going over what we're, although I know you like.
I mean, one day a month I can do that. I
Okay.
mean, I can make that work.
Okay. I mean, cause I don't wanna push the meeting back and then not have people there, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I can't
Unless
see
you
for
don't like those
councilperson
people.
costs though, I don't know her schedule.
Yeah, we should definitely be at the work sessions. I mean,
Yeah,
We'll work to catch people up if they miss. There'll be obviously, you can take time to listen to the minutes too.
yeah, that's no problem. My current task is gonna be that, I believe it was a resolution
Oh.
rather than an ordinance for the native planting list to, so, you know, combine the copies, remove some outdated stuff, because they had some interesting ideas up until recently about what was acceptable, flora. And, that'll be cool.
Can someone refresh my memory on, I remember we talked about flags for a little while.
We did, those are in.
Is that in?
Oh, yes, thank you, those are in, yeah, the sign code, so this is funny. We, planning and zoning dealt with the sign code, and then got that pretty much done, and then the planning, then they took up the codified review as a whole, the zoning code. And so we held that, and that's in there,
Okay,
that's in there. So if you go under sign, which is 1280, I think,
yeah,
So-
I'm looking at signs, I
Yeah.
just didn't see the flag part.
it's in there.
Okay.
So if not, we'll put something in it, not a big deal.
It's
But I
just
remember the discussion.
remember having discussions a year ago and
Right,
About how
they
big your
never
sign
figured out
can
where we
be,
landed.
right.
and how, yes, you can put the Able roof sign in your front yard,
Yeah.
cause,
Didn't
yeah.
the Sixth
Well, it's
Circuit
not
rule
right.
something about that?
Yes, and Jesse
in
can
the last
revisit
year?
that. We talked about it last year, and my memory's a little fuzzy on that too, 'cause it's been a while, but
Yeah,
we'll
all I know
refresh
is my
and talk
typical
about it.
opinion of Sixth Circuit opinions.
Yeah, I think it was, and I don't necessarily think, hold on, I think the Sixth Circuit's out of Cincinnati, I think it was the one up north. So, but Jesse will have to revisit that. It was something out of Michigan, so.
Michigan's part of the Sixth
You're
Circuit.
right, so, okay, so you're right. So, yeah,
It's Michigan,
That's weird that you know
Ohio.
that.
Yeah, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Okay.
I think it's maybe Indiana's Sixth Circuit.
it works. So there you go, yeah, there was a
People
case out of
in
Michigan.
politics that don't know that. Sure of it.
So-
Good on you.
It is,
David.
it is a wildly, very, very conservative board.
So is there a place that we're gonna start at in the next meeting that we should probably
Wherever you
review
want.
ahead of time?
So I think you should get a good reading.
Right.
And come with your.
Look for
thoughts.
something you want, send it to me as a suggestion, I will come up with an agenda for the next.
There you go.
Okay,
One, I probably won't allow more than 3 sections to be discussed at a time.
okay.
Just looking, even a 6 o'clock start, you know, you were looking at 15-20 minutes just for a normal legislative meeting, like, hey, we have legislation tonight, let's make sure we're ready to pass it. And then, you know, that's 40 minutes left. 10 or 15 minutes per item is gonna be talking about it quickly.
Are you intending to give time to this at the work session?
Yeah.
So we should probably
Yeah.
do that for the work session too.
Yeah,
Or should we?
yeah.
Well,
Catch you.
Well, that was why I sent out the agenda the first time and said, if you want anything on it,
Yeah.
put it on there so we know to talk about the work session. We'll just, for the next few foreseeable whatever, put on a permanent,
20-30 minutes, yeah, something.
yeah, a
Discuss
chunk,
something.
a bullet point for code. And then I would suggest the easiest way to do it is as people peruse through and they see something that catches their eye, they say, hey, this caught my eye, next work section, can we talk about swimming pools,
Yeah.
dog leashes, and whatever, and I'll say, no, you get to choose one, there's 6 other members of council, which one do you want, we'll ask the other 5 members, and they get to choose 2. No one else wants to do it, they're all yours, okay. Default. Two sweetest words in the English language.
Is that it?
That's all I
Are
got.
we done?
Are we done? Anybody
Other than
else?
to,
I'm good.
look through it, guys, see what's important to you, our next meeting's probably gonna be a work session, what, the second Wednesday, first Thursday?
Yep, next week.
So that's next week.
Next week.
So, find what you want, guys, email it to me, sometime before the weekend's over, and Monday I'll put a list of things people have said they wanna talk about.
Sounds good.
Alright, with no other business, I move to adjourn.
Yeah, you got a few in there.
We stand adjourned, have a great